Warning. This podcast is about the horror genre, specifically horror films. As most horror movies are filled with coarse language, violence, and/or gore, the topics and language of the cast of the pod will also reflect the genre. If you have any issues with the aforementioned warnings, please press stop. But if you have no issue with adult language, movie violence, or the accoutrement that accompanies horror films, please feel free to continue. You have been warned.
Hey everybody, welcome back to the cast of the pod, the podcast where, unlike others where they're reviewing movies, we're talking about our experience with the movie, what we liked about it, what we didn't like about it. We jump all over the place, but it is a movie experience. Today, it's your three hosts, starting with well, I don't want to start with myself. That's kind of egotistical.
But you already did.
You already did.
So you have to keep going.
I'm Josh.
I'm Deb.
I'm Cobweb.
All right. So the three of us, I was thinking about, it's like I need to learn how to quit talking.
That's not going to happen anytime soon.
Man, Cobweb knows me well already. But we'll start off with our social media. All our social media for Cast of the Pod is Cast of the Pod. There's a TikTok, there's a Twitter. I really don't do Twitter. How about you, Cobweb?
I just get the alert sometimes when something pops off.
Yeah, same here. Facebook and Instagram. So everything is Cast of the Pod, CAST of the Pod. And Cobweb, you want to throw yours out there?
Yes, Cobweb 411. That's
411, like the information.
That's right. I got that information for you. So you hit me up, I'll answer you.
Awesome. And Deb and me have our own old married gamer ones, but yeah, that's too much spelling to do. We need to learn to cut those down. But today here at Cast of the Pod, not the other stuff we do, but at Cast of the Pod, today we're going to be talking about Invasion of the Body Snatchers. And this is the 1976 version, I think it is.
Yes.
Mm-hmm.
1970s.
76.
And Cobweb, you brought this one up to watch. What was it that triggered you to want to watch this one?
I've never seen it before.
So
it was something else. I put up this list for for topics for us on the pod, and Invasion of Body Snatchers came off as like a really, they were really hyping it up as if it was really good, and they gave it like some type of, people got into it, like the concept of conformity to society, and
yes,
digging into things, and it was like, well, hey, Jeff Goldblum's in it. How bad can it be?
Dude. And then something else we were talking about is we wanted to start calling the listeners pod people.
Pod people.
When you messaged me and said that we got to start saying it that way, I was like, oh man, because neither out of all three of us, none of us had seen this movie before. And I honestly expected, after you messaged me, that that's what they were going to be saying in the movie. So I'm sitting there watching the movie the whole time, wait for them to bust out with the pod people.
If you was waiting for that, you was waiting a long time for nothing.
Yeah, like an hour and 40 minutes, however long this movie was.
This is actually 1978.
1978. Oh,
there you go.
Deb,
same year that Halloween came out.
Yes, you're right. Same as the Halloween one. Man, completely different styles between these movies.
Yeah. You can tell that Invasion of the Body Snatchers had a little bit bigger budget.
There were so many people. The guy, where was he from, Deborah? The guy that runs into the car and he's screaming, "They're coming after me. They're coming to get me." And then he runs down the street and gets hit by the car. And that was a familiar face.
He was in the original Invasion of the Body Snatchers.
Oh, wow. I didn't know that. But there's another movie where he's screaming. Because when we were watching the movie, Deb's like, oh, it's that guy.
Don't remember.
Man, I was sure. I didn't look it up because I knew Deb was going to remember.
No, I didn't.
Yeah, he's pretty famous. I can't remember his name, though, but yeah. Because they talked about him when I was watching it. It was like a little intro about it.
Oh, wow. Where'd you watch it at?
I watched it at home. It was on Hulu.
I saw it on YouTube for free. But it's like legit free, not like bootleg free.
Oh wow.
Yeah, I don't know how they did that.
Oh, it's Kevin McCarthy. He was from Creepshow.
Yes.
There you go.
That's how our old age memories work, and where we remember it, and then the next day we gotta IMDb it.
Oh yeah.
I can't remember.
Hey, that's why we got. That's why Deb's here. She's the Google master. We've established that. She's quick on the Googles. She's like the long ranger of Google information.
I think she's TikToking over there because we're just talking and she's laughing. See? No, but honestly, we started watching this movie, and I thought this was going to be another one, just like the podcast we did with Chuckles or Terror Trips, where we didn't even see the whole thing. We gave up on the movie.
Okay.
I thought that this was going to be that, because we're watching it and it's just dragging on and dragging on. And then I had to tell myself, remember, this is the mid 70s, mid to late 70s. The storytelling's different. Just like we talked about in JD's Revenge, the blood was different. It was more of an innocent time in some ways. And so I had to let go of that angst that we have from modern movies and just watch it. Yeah,
I had to do that too.
It got so much better later on into the movie, but it just took a while. The storytelling is completely different.
There was a lot of parts where I just stayed quiet because I didn't know, like, what are we watching?
Well, and the going back to the storytelling, where, I mean, how many times in the movie did they show one person just look at another person? And then just look at the other person.
You know, that was the whole thing. It was like with the Invasion of Body Snatchers, you did not know whose body was snatched.
Yes.
You know what I'm saying? Until it was too late. You know, and that was the thing. You just like, you didn't know. You know, all of a sudden, all these people, they just start acting different. You know, that's not my wife. That's not my wife. That's my husband, you know, and all that type of stuff.
When he went to the dry cleaners, and the man says, yeah, that's not my wife.
Yeah.
And she was just looking at him like, you better shut up. And he's like, no, everything's okay now. Don't worry about it.
Well, that's because he was already a pod person.
Well,
he came back.
When he came back later on, he was like, no, everything's okay now.
She's better now.
Yeah. He's a pod people then. He was taking over. I mean, those things are kind of crazy though. You know, it's like they said, like, that was so crazy. Like that one scene when old girl got taken by the pod people, you know what I'm saying? By them. And she like literally, when they showed the whole transformation, you know, or how it switches your body and everything like that. And she just kind of withered, you know, kind of like that. That shit was crazy.
If you look close enough, you could see like how they had string on her face. So it was kind of pulling her face. And then when they had the mannequin of her and the strings pulling the opposite direction, her face just kind of, you know, like caves in and all that. That was kind of cool.
Yeah, they used to try special effects for real then. That's when they were really special effects, not just
they had to make it happen. Yeah, they had to make it happen, not just program it into. I mean, I like CGI and all that, but there's something about physical effects, practical effects that's pretty cool.
Yeah, they didn't have any of that in this movie.
The part that creeped me out the most was when he fell asleep in that chair outside. And everybody was inside, and then like all the pods were around him, and all the people were coming out.
All the 4 pods were there,
and just look. I was like, "What is happening?"
There were 2 people in this movie that they weren't hiding that they were pod people. Leonard Nimoy, it was just obvious he was turned at the beginning. Maybe he was one of the first ones that got turned. Because when they run into him at the party and he's like, there's nothing wrong with your husband. She's like, no, it's somebody else. And he's like, no, it's fine. Just go home with him.
Really? You thought he was turned then?
Yes.
I wasn't sure.
I thought he was turned. Every moment that you saw him, he was already a pod person. That's what I'm thinking.
I thought that he was working with them, but I wasn't sure if he was one of them.
No, there's no working with them. You're them or not. That's it.
See, I thought Leonard Nimoy turned when there was when they were talking on the roof, and he told him, like, yeah, we're going to talk to the mayor the next day. And then when he went to go talk to him, it was like something completely different. You know, I thought that after that point that's when he turned. I think he was just himself the whole time. But to me, that's when I picked up. I thought that he had turned when they separated that day. I'll
have to go back and look. But you only turn when you're asleep. He would have had to take a nap or something in the middle of the day.
So he was one from the beginning.
That's what I'm thinking, but
because he did seem like he was, but then he was also like, I don't know, there was like some kind of feeling in there with his emotions.
There were a couple of people at the party though. When he was telling them, he was like, "Oh no, go with your husband. Everything's okay." And there was a couple of people behind him that were doing the look thing, just looking at each other, communicating.
Yeah,
hive mind.
Freaking pods, man.
They're
all from up there going. Was that like a water storm or something like that? They came here.
And then when they had the bus of the little kids, and one of the little kids is like, "Well, I don't want to take a nap."
You're going to sleep. That's what he said.
Yeah.
It's not
that
time
jump was
for
crazy.
That.
So going back to the very beginning of the movie, I guess where they spent most of their money on graphics was the little like pearls inside the bubbles as the credits were going, and that's them. That's them. I went back and read somewhere online that's how they traveled through space and everything like that.
And that was them getting to Earth?
Yeah. So all during the credits, that's them getting here.
But they just took over. They took over completely.
I want to know when they wrote this, what they were trying to say. Were they trying to point out the future and all of us with our cell phones being linked up, brainless zombies?
You going there with this?
Oh yeah. Oh yeah.
I was just thinking maybe they saw a Little Shop of Horrors the night before.
Right?
That's where they got the plants from.
This movie was written by Nostradamus. That's all I'm gonna say.
Right. These big ass pods they give handing out like government cheese. You know, it was crazy sick. They had lines for it.
Well, think about it. They have iPods, earpods. Mm-hmm. Yeah. And these people with their iPhones, you know that same hive mind thinking as I have an iPhone in my hand.
Yeah, you're always connected to it like that.
Mm-hmm.
I thought it was more or less about something about the conformity of society, like which is better, like almost like a capitalistic society or either a communistic society at that point. That's what I was thinking. Because it seemed like once you became a pod person, you included yourself, and it's almost like a communist way of thinking, you know, and that's what it seemed like to me, what they were trying to get across, like, which is really better. You know, this communist way of thinking of however you want it in, where it's all group society, where you conform to everything, you know, everything's controlled, where they eliminate like, you know, war, famine, and everything else like that. You're getting that, but you're giving up your individuality.
That makes so much more sense.
Yeah. A lot better than Little Shop of Horrors.
There was a line in there that I thought was pretty funny. When the main guy is, or was it Jeff Goldblum? I can't remember the names. The main character is Donald Sutherland and what's her name, and they're talking about her husband. The first guy that we see that he's a pod person.
Oh,
right.
The
botanist's husband.
Mm-hmm.
And he says, well, and that's when they kind of introduced Leonard Nimoy. They said, let's take him to my friend, Dr. So-and-so, and he can talk to him. He's like, well, he doesn't need a psychiatrist. I'm telling you, it's not him. He goes, you know, we can find out. Maybe he's gay or maybe he's Republican.
That's right.
And we're like, oh, we're going there.
There it is right there.
I just like the association of what's his problem? Well, he's either gay or he's Republican.
Yeah, that's all. That's all it is. It's, you know, it can be either one of those. You know, not that he's a pod person. No, his mind hasn't been taken over. He's either gay or Republican.
Yeah.
There's no other answer.
No other options there.
No.
Yeah, that's that train of thinking again. That's that train of thinking again. You know, that's that 70s. You know, you can get away with anything. You know, their whole mindset, just like in JD's Revenge, is completely different than everything else.
That's the cool thing about, because I do like the modern horror movies and the other stuff we've been watching and all that. But now with my older, somewhat now mature a little bit mind, going back and seeing this stuff that I hadn't seen this movie as a kid, but you know, seeing stuff from that time, from our earlier time, and seeing it in a different way with different eyes than I would have seen it back then. I'm enjoying these older movies.
Me too.
Yeah, they're movies.
Yeah,
good movies. You know, they take them a little bit more. They deal a little bit more in the psyche of scaring you than anything else. You know, like, come on, they were snatching up people like they had these little jokers right here. They took over so fast.
Yeah,
you know, they took over so fast. They had like straight like, you know, like pod people greenhouses, you know, set up to deliver these pods out. They had to set up where they distributing the pods out to cities and everything else like that. People lined up in orderly lines to come get your pod so you could take it out to bring it home to get somebody else in your house. They was working very efficiently. I mean,
back to the phone, waiting in lines to get their pod.
Is that what they were?
That's when they were carrying.
The
big squash was a pod. That's Deb. That's where they were going with the little kids and all that. It was another pod building that they were going into, like a greenhouse kind of.
And when they were throwing the trash out, was it all the like how what's her name when she turned into the pod person?
Everywhere the trash was, that was the former body.
And it was like all ash.
Ash and like that silk, the hairs.
That's what that was. I knew something was up with that trash truck, but I just didn't get it till Dev said it. That's right. That's what they had. That's what they were picking up. They were picking up the residues from the pods.
Yeah, and in the botanist is her husband.
Her husband's name is Jeffrey.
Okay, Jeffrey. That's when he had the trash can in the morning where it looked like he dropped over the cup and spilled out the flour and all that. And like he was throwing the flour away. No, he was throwing away his old body and the remains of the pod and all that.
He put it in the trash can.
And that's another thing showing you how public sanitation was part of the whole thing. How far were they already, when this movie starts, how far were they already taking over things if they had sanitation out there? Whenever they
had to, yeah, exactly. And there it is right there. Because when they took over all at once. You know what I'm saying? So once they got in place like they dropped it. Everybody had a certain idea what they wanted to do. And they said, this is the plan and we're going to be efficient about it. They were so efficient. It was freaking scary. They were better than the freaking government. That's for sure. I can tell you that.
Just snuck up on everybody. The story we're watching, you only see a couple of people here and there, and then all of a sudden tons of people. But like you're saying, like we said earlier, you know, what base did they already have? You know, how many? I wonder how many other cities.
They were all across I think they had the whole thing on lock.
But here's the thing I did want to talk about, and this is what I was thinking about as we were watching the movie. And I was kind of bored at the beginning because he's a health inspector. And he's going in there and he's like, oh, there's a rat turd in this soup. And all he was trying to do was figure out the recipe for the soup.
Right.
So, you know, and then he comes out, his window's broken. And he's telling her on the phone, he was like, they broke my window and it wasn't even a good bottle of wine. Of course, they're not going to throw a good bottle of wine to break his window.
He was on some mess, a rat turd in the soup. Jeez. Because I was always kind of tripping out with the relationship between him and old girl. They seemed like they had a more relationship than they really did.
That's the part that I was thinking of at the beginning. I don't know if she did with him, but he wasn't holding back that he wanted to get with her.
Yeah.
Like,
well, he told her at the end that he loved her.
Yeah, but that's at the end. But at the beginning of the movie, he's all like, "Yeah, your husband's an asshole," and blah blah blah. And
he was trying to slide in DMs.
He's like, "You can stay at my place." And then there was another thing that caught me and Deborah off guard. When she goes over to his house and he's cooking, he's stir frying food.
Mm-hmm.
I'm thinking it, and then Deborah says, "That's all they're gonna eat."
That's a little bit of food.
That's the recommended amount of food that we're supposed to be eating.
Oh,
that's not how we eat now.
Oh.
But that's a normal serving.
And then they were eating in little bowls.
Them was probably sharing.
That was like a snack.
So close.
He was stir frying stuff, and there was no oil or nothing in that wok. I know we're supposed to let stuff go, and yes, we're imagining it's an alien movie and all that, and the suspension of disbelief. But I was just mad there wasn't more oil in that wok.
Like, how
you can't use that much. You don't need that much oil in the wok if you know what I'm saying. If you got a good wok, if you got a bad wok, the metal's gonna soak up all the oil. So you got to have something really good and smooth so that the oil can stay. True. Well, I found out the hard way because I just bought a new wok.
What were you saying, Deb?
I said maybe it sucked up all the oil. That's why you didn't see it.
We're going way too deep into this wok.
I did have a question though.
What was your question?
So when they're chasing anybody, like what do they do when they capture them? Like, because they weren't killing people.
They take them to a pod and they drug them or knock them over the head so they're knocked out, and then the pod just takes over.
Because they always showed them chasing them, but then when they would catch up to them, I was like, okay, so.
I did learn something with this movie, Cobweb. Let me know if you feel the same way. Jeff Goldblum does not act. He's just get Jeff Goldblum in every movie. That's it. That's
getting Jeff Goldblum being himself. And you know what? I was wondering if this young Jeff Goldblum would be eating anything during this movie. And he was. Yes. He always eats something in a movie, and he's talking with his mouth full. Every single movie. That is his trademark thing. And I was like, man, this movie's so old. Maybe this is before he started doing that crazy shit. It was like, hell no. No, he was out the gate doing that junk. Because that was a young Jeff Goldblum. He was really young. He was like a tall, skinny guy.
Yeah, when he got in the sauna and like he grabbed the door to open it or whatever, I told Deborah his arms are like 6 feet long. And then didn't he say in the movie or something like that he was like 120 pounds, 6'4"?
He was 170.
170? Mm-hmm. But at 6'4", he might as well be 120 at that height.
That junk right there. Woo! It was so many times when I used to think about when I was watching that movie, I would just be like, how would I react in a situation like that? Like when he called to report it and then they told him his name back, he said, it's okay. And he's like, I didn't tell you my name. And that's when he dawned on him that it was too far gone.
Yeah.
He had lost control. When that happened, he knew that there was nothing else he could do.
Another thing that threw me off was when they see the Jeff Goldblum pod person there in the sauna and they're looking at it and he's like, it doesn't have fingerprints, just like a fetus. And then he looks at it and it doesn't look like anybody yet. And that's when he tells them, he goes, how tall are you? What do you weigh? And then right there, he went from being a health inspector to this mad scientist doctor. Like he already knew that it was going to be Jeff Goldblum's body there, as basically learning that there is aliens, and he was just all calm about it and everything. And he's like, I'll be right back. Let me go get my friend.
That's because they had, you know what? Because it was trying to finish merging with him.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I'm saying? Because when he was there and he was close to it, that's why the plant went out for him. Because it was still coming after him from when he was sleeping that mud bath.
Yes.
It was, what the hell, man? Goddamn pod people.
It makes you wonder if there's like a psychic bond, because is that what was making him sleepy?
Yeah.
And then that's why he had the bloody nose.
You know what it was tripped out too? Whenever they killed whenever they killed a pod person, it's like they all felt it.
Going back to the hive mind. Yeah.
They were screaming.
Yeah, they all felt it. As soon as they knew, like you know, like when he fell asleep, Deb, in that scene you were talking about, and he came back and he started killing the bodies and stuff like that, crushing the skulls. They all felt it. It was like they all started screaming at the same time from the pain of one of their own dying.
And the tall ones that were looking over the fence doing the scream.
Those are scary.
So when we get to the end of the movie, the scene that's on the bottom right of the screen right now, unfortunately for me, it was spoiled because I've seen that scene before. I never knew what it was from, but I've seen him do the scream, not knowing it was from Body Snatchers. And the moment that the blonde walks up to him, and she's hiding around everybody, she's just hiding her emotions, and she's sneaking through all the pod people. And as soon as he turned, I was like, damn. I didn't say nothing. I let Deborah enjoy the movie. But so that was kind of spoiled for me. Had you seen that before?
I saw that, you know, like that point before, like as a GIF or something else like that.
Yeah.
But I never knew what it was from. I didn't know it was from this movie at all. You know, it kind of threw me for a loop too. I really didn't. That whole thing with him, you know, it seemed kind of ill at the end, you know, when he was like going around from place to place and everybody was just, you know, doing their own thing, you know, and not paying attention to him. Because I thought he was still doing what a girl told him to do.
Yeah.
You know, just hide your emotions. But that wasn't the case. He was gone. Or did he just give it up after everybody was turned and maybe he just conformed to everything else?
That's what I was going to say, like how you brought up how he switched over, giving up his identity just so he could be with her. I think the whole thing's a love story, really, the whole movie. And I mean, he went after her. But
because they didn't even catch him, right? Because it was like he had went to the boat.
Yeah, he could have kept on going, but he just gave up. There was no need. And he was hoping that she wasn't lying. She even said, she goes, everything's better. You know,
and it's painless.
It's painless and
right. So he gave in. So he conformed to them because of the lack of hope. He felt that he was the only one left.
Yep.
And he couldn't do anything else to stop it because it was so far gone. So he might as well. It's either become a pod person or live in hiding for the rest of your life.
And he was just lazy.
Yeah.
Damn food inspector. But I'll tell you what scene messed me up. Let me go activate this picture over here. You ready for this?
Okay.
Think about it. See if there was any kind of scene in there that messed you up.
I know.
Is it this one?
Yes. God.
So if anybody's watching this right now on the YouTube channel, there was a homeless guy that they showed earlier in the movie playing banjo, and it was him and his dog. And then later on in the movie, the what?
He had a boxer.
Yes. And later on in the movie, you see him laying down in the park, and you see the tendrils or the hair or whatever, and the dog's asleep right next to him. That means it got confused and merged the two.
He kicked it. It happened when it got confused when he kicked it, because they tried to wake him up and he wouldn't wake up. So he kicked the plant and it started bleeding. And that's why I got confused and merged him with the dog.
I didn't think about that.
But yeah, I remember. I was like, why did they show it bleed?
So now that you bring up that, I was looking at some of the trivia stuff.
Yeah.
And they said, you know how the homeless guy was playing on the banjo?
Yeah.
That was actually Jerry Garcia that was playing.
Like Jerry Garcia?
Yeah.
Wait. The actor or the sound effect from off on the side?
It says that the Harry the Homeless Banjo Guy's banjo playing was performed by Grateful Dead, Jerry Garcia.
Okay, so it wasn't the actor on screen. It was just...
No, it was a song.
He was doing the ADR.
And then like after that, Jerry Garcia started playing it in his concerts.
Okay.
But he had played it for the movie.
Okay, I can accept that.
And then also, Donald Sutherland when him and Elizabeth were running, when they were running from the pod people, Donald Sutherland actually got hit by a Volkswagen Beetle, like for real, and he hit the windshield. And he said he fell onto the windshield and was able to see the driver saying, "Oh God, not you."
Anybody put Donald Sutherland?
Oh man, I'm having Happy Gilmore flashbacks now. I'm getting hit by a Volkswagen.
Oh my God, I can only imagine that. You driving down the street and all of a sudden you hit Donald Sutherland.
I guess that's better than
for
hitting
life.
Jeff. That's better than hitting Jeff Goldblum, I guess.
Oh.
And then Cabo, you know how you said the guy that in the beginning, it ended up being Kevin McCarthy from, I don't know if it's Creepshow or Tales from the Crypt. It's one of those. You said he was from the original one. So at the end of the original one, he was doing the same thing that he was doing in this one, and he was playing the same character.
Right.
So this is a continuation then.
I don't think it's a continuation. I think they just tried to put a little twist on it. You know, it's so, you know, is it okay? Let's think about what they were trying to get across here. Do you think that that movie actually made you think whether, okay, how can I put this? Is it right to conform to society, you know, and lose everything just to be a part?
No. In my opinion.
But we would have no wars if you just acted like everything else. There'd be no hunger, no rape, no famine, no discord, no jealousy, no envy. But like they said, also there'd be no love.
Yeah, there'd be no self. Everything would be one. And yeah, and I'm being selfish, and I'll admit that I'm being selfish. I'm like, nope, nope.
It would be boring.
Yeah, it would be boring. It'd be lame.
Because everybody would be the same.
Bored. They look bored as hell.
They did. They're just like.
Go ahead, Deb.
They were just like this, and then we would think we were frozen all the time because they're just there.
Well, like you were saying right now, Cobweb, they were at work and they're all just walking out in timeline and all that. That's why it looked like Donald Sutherland still wasn't changed over.
Because he kept turning.
Yeah, he was looking at everything going on, and he was kind of in a different timing than everybody else. Everybody else, they were walking out in their lines, and he was still just a little off. But then that's when you find out that, you know, he rats out what was her name? The blonde, Deborah.
Me.
That was Jeff Goldblum's wife.
Yes. It's with an R.
They had some weird names too.
Oh, did you know Robert Duvall was in the movie for a second? He was a priest on the swing. He did a cameo.
Yeah, I even told Deborah, I was like, look, he's in the movie. I couldn't remember Robert Duvall's name. But yeah, he just gives him that disgusted look like.
And he did it for free. He was in town and he just jumped on the set.
That's cool.
That's cool.
Nancy was
the blonde.
Yeah.
Was the blonde. He gave up. I tell you when he gave up, when he went in that room, when he went to go see her at her job, and he was looked around and everybody was in there and she was there. And he just kind of like concentrated on her and looking at her, and she was just out of it. I think after that, he gave in to the pod people.
Oh, so at that point he hadn't crossed over yet.
That's what I think. I think after that part, that's when he crossed over, because he was all messed up.
You know what this movie reminds me of, and it's nothing like it. Completely, totally different. Stephen King had a short novella called Skeleton Crew, and in there they had a story called The Mist. Yes. And in the movie, The Mist, they completely changed the ending of it. It was nothing like the book. It went a complete different direction with it. But I think for once the movie version ended better than the book. Have you seen it?
Yes, I've also read the book.
And it reminds me of that, because when he gets off the car after he does what he does, we won't spoil that because we got to talk about that movie here on Cast of the Pod. But after he does what he does, he sees the military trucks drive by, and the people that when they left the group, you're like, oh, you know they're gonna die, and they found the military and they were safe. You know, the movie would have gone a completely different way. Do you remember that part at the end when the trucks are driving by and he looks into the back of the trucks and it's like the mom and the kid that he told him earlier, don't go, you're gonna die.
Oh yeah.
And this is what it reminds me of, that because as soon as the blonde left and they ran their own, Jeff Goldblum went and the blonde went after him. He told her to stay here, and then she just ran with him.
Yes.
I was like, she's dead. She's gone.
I thought she was gonna be dead too.
Yep. And then she comes back at the end of the movie, the only actual survivor, and it reminded me of that scene from The Mist.
Jeez. That was so twisted. Then he just ratted her out too.
Yep.
What an asshole. Pointed at her. And did the alien scream. What an asshole. I mean, come on, man. She ain't bothering nobody. Who's she bothering? You need to turn her in too. You gotta have all the pod people. Everybody's gotta fit. Everybody's gotta fit.
Why did they have to get everybody? Couldn't they just be happy with just half of the people?
Why? So that they can screw up, that half can screw up the world? They had a plan already how they was gonna fix it.
Now here's the thing, is there more of a story to it? Was it for each one of their race, for each human, or was each human just turned into a pod version? You know what I mean? So was it like they were were the aliens bringing their family back to life, or just converting humans? Because that's something they said. They said they absorb your memories, they absorb who you are, and you become part of the group. But so was it one for one, or is it just now it's a new mutant type?
It could be any kind of way. You know, you could be right. You know, everybody didn't need a pod for every single creature. So they would travel in space and everything. They said they've been around for years. They just go from planet to planet or something like that, right?
Yeah.
So they take over the whole galaxy.
How come they could just stay on one planet, take all of the people, and then just stay there?
Well, they did. They didn't have any more resources left, and their planet was bad, and
so then they jumped to another planet.
Yep. They're like parasites.
They're selfish. That's what they are. They're
selfish?
Mm-hmm. They don't have enough. They don't have enough for themselves, so they have to go take everybody else's.
Yeah.
Selfish aliens.
Selfish aliens. Jeez. So they just take over your body and just become everybody, you know, and just run it after that. Man, that's kind of selfish.
Yes, that's a story I'd like to see, though. how far into the infrastructure and everything they got, and like into politics and into corporations, and later on, that would be something. 10 years later, is there poverty? Is there disease? Or is it like this utopian world where everybody just gets along?
It's probably like the episode on South Park with the crab people. You don't know who it is. You know, after a certain point in time, they just take all over. You don't know. I mean, how can you stop them? And the thing about it is they weren't violent.
Right.
They were not violent. Like they said, they're not violent at all. They would just grab you and give you a shot. You know, and that was messed up because that was back in the 70s, and they didn't even wipe it off with no alcohol. You don't know how many times they was using this needle. I mean, I'm like, come on, man, that shit is dangerous.
They stuck him on that vein on the top.
Yeah, that's some.
I had to turn my face because.
And see, going back to drug use in JD's Revenge, they go into the lab. And she's like, here, take some of this. He's always taking it like candy. He's like, what is it? He's like, oh, it's speed. and he says, how many are we supposed to take? She says, well, it says 1. He goes, okay, we'll take 5.
Yeah, he did.
And then they take 5. I guess they made a point of saying that because right after that, that's when they got the shot of, and Spock says it. He's like, it's a mild sedative. So I guess that's how they can counteract the mild sedative, because they took 5 times the recommended dose of speed.
But would that mild sedative work with 5 times the speed?
Yeah, no, they was going sideways. They weren't even high. They was going sideways.
Sideways, yes. I'll tell you a story, Cobweb, and I can admit this publicly and openly because it was doctor recommended. I went to a doctor one time, and it was when I was much larger than I am now, way up in the 3s, almost in the 400s, and they gave me a diet pill, and I took that diet pill. And I worked in the same location where this doctor's office was. So whenever anybody at my job was sick, we went to go see that doctor, get a shot of vitamin B12, go get, whatever, you needed stitches, you get stitches. That's the doctor you go to. So I went to her and she's like, yeah, take this pill. It's like, okay. So I trust her. Take it like a week's worth of it. And then, I feel during the week, not all at once.
Okay.
And I'm feeling my heart and my neck and all that. And I go to her after that weekend, that week, and then the weekend, and then start Monday over again. And I go to her and I'm like, yeah, I don't know about, I haven't slept in 2 days. And other days I just keep on going. I said, I got tons of energy, but, I can feel my heart. She's like, okay, well, don't worry about it. I'll be right back. And the nurse tells me it's speed. I said, what? She goes, the diet pill. It's basically speed. I'm like, what? No, but like my heart was, it just...
You felt it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I didn't lose any weight, but I got so much work done that month.
Oh, man, that stuff will mess you up.
Yeah.
I remember when I was in college, I was taking those no-dos.
Oh, yeah. The yellow ones,
Yeah. And I took way too many of them before an exam. I figured, I could speed through this exam so quick and get my mind going. I'd be good with the speed for some stupid reason. I think that was probably one of the worst tests I ever took in my life. I don't think I even finished any of the questions. I got halfway and said, that's good enough. Let's go to the next one. I finished all the questions halfway.
I was at a call center one time, and everybody, it was the no-dose, the caffeine pills, the generic ones. And this was, you want extra hours? Yeah. No, keep on working. Well, I've already been here 14 hours. If you want more hours, you can have more hours. So, we were on a constant diet of caffeine pills and Red Bulls. And yeah, that was no good.
Things we used to do when we were younger. It's like they said, God looks after babies and fools.
Well, that means he's still watching me. Because I look like a big fat baby and I'm a fool.
Taking no-nos and Red Bulls. Man.
But back to Invasion of the Body Snatchers, 1978. Cobweb, we'll start off with you. What is your rating on a score of 1 to 10 for this movie?
I've been thinking about this hard all since I watched this thing, or where to go. And I'm gonna give it a 6.
All right, Deb?
I'm gonna give it a 6 also.
Now, I can't do it because I'm not going to bring up a 666 in here. 3-6 Mafia. I'll give it a 5.5.
Okay.
It wasn't all that bad.
But it wasn't good.
Well, I had to remind myself this was a different time when this movie was made. When this movie came out, people were probably like, oh my God. Just leaving the theater shook.
Yeah. Looking at everybody.
Never seen. Yeah.
Wondering if they're a pod person.
Think about it.
Yeah.
Late 70s, early 80s. Think about how simple some people were in some way. Well, people are still simple now. But, you're just looking at everybody. And as you're looking to see, is that person acting like a pod person? You're looking like a pod person because
you're looking at that person.
Yep. And something tripped out about this. It's amazing to me, even though we're giving it these 6s and 5.5s, this movie right here has been woven into the fabric of Americana for a while.
Yes.
People really look out for these things, the little stuff, the pod people references and everything else. It's been constantly. And this movie was ranked pretty high of all time horror movies. I think it was on my list of number 16.
Oh, shit.
Yeah.
That was something I did as we're watching it. And I told Deborah, I was like, we talk about pod people. You hear about Invasion of the Body Snatchers. You hear in other movies. I've heard them where they said plant people. And they had to be talking about this movie. And then all the references and the memes and the GIFs. And it's like, why hadn't I seen this yet?
Yeah.
I thought that I had seen it before, but then when we were watching it, I was like, nope, I've never seen this one.
I think I was confusing this with the old War of the Worlds.
See, that's why I thought I knew we had to see this. I mean, it's like some things that if we're doing this cast of the pod, like the pod people out there, there's certain movies that we have to make sure that we have seen.
Yes.
To say that we've actually doing a podcast about horror movies. There's some that you have to say, okay, here's a staple. We've done it. We know it. Will I watch this movie again? No.
No, me neither. Me neither.
No. It was
an experience, and it's been experienced. And
it's done.
Yeah, it's done.
And we move on.
On
to the next one.
We did that. Been there, done that.
But, yeah. Cobweb, what is your favorite horror movie of all time?
Favorite? Halloween.
The original.
Yes.
What did you think of the first Rob Zombie remake?
I liked it too. I think it was a little bit more violent.
Yeah.
Than it needs to be. The whole thing with Michael Myers is that it's the mystique about him, the illusion of him not being stopped or whatever, what's going to happen. But Michael was a crazy son of a bitch. I mean, him posing people up and doing stuff with the bodies all the goddamn time. Like he was setting up Halloween decorations and shit.
Deb and I have had this conversation, and we talked about it on Josh and Debcast about Morbius. I'm tired of there being sob stories and back history for villains. Sometimes the bad guys just need to be bad guys. You don't need to know that they were battered children, or you know what I mean. It's just, you don't have to feel sympathy for the Joker. You don't have to feel sympathy for Michael Myers when you see him as that little pudgy blonde kid that was getting picked on, and his mom was a stripper, and the stepdad was an alcoholic and all that. I didn't need to see all that. I just needed to know that Michael Myers was this unstoppable killing force that may or may not be supernatural.
Yeah, but it's, to me, I kind of enjoy that a little bit. Because I understand what it's like. It's like, okay, yeah, that's what you got. But sometimes I like to see it at that point. What was it that actually triggered him?
Not to be a hypocrite on my part, but I did like the scene when he beat the shit out of his bully with the tree branch.
Man, that motherfucker right there. Damn. Freaking Michael. He's got a lot of bodies on him. A lot of bodies. See, because I've always been like, a lot of people used to ask me, like, who do you like more, like Jason or either Freddy Krueger? And me, from my standpoint, I have to go Jason. Because even though, it was what Freddy Krueger stood for. I mean, yeah, he was a crazy son of a bitch, but I mean, come on. Let's be honest. He was a freaking kitty tickler. So
I was hoping you were going to say it a different way. Yeah, that's perfect right there. I always wanted to see a Springfield slasher movie where they got Freddy before, you know what I mean, as a human, because him as a human is far worse than him as a demon, or whatever story they did with the Freddy Krueger's New Nightmares, the Wes Craven's New Nightmares. But yeah, and now that he's an old man, they could do it.
Yeah,
they probably could come back.
But
they said, I shared a story where they said he said yes, that he was
because Blumhouse got the rights, right?
Yeah, he wants to do a last one.
And for me, honestly, the reason why I like Freddy Krueger over Jason, do you remember the TV show V, where there were aliens, where they peel their skin off and all that? I saw V before I saw any Nightmare on Elm Streets. And the good guy, the he was one of the lizard people. Was I think his name was Willie, but it was played by Robert Englund, and he was the happy, kind of goofy type of character. And so when I found out, I'm like, wait a minute, Willie is the guy that's playing Freddy Krueger, and that's kind of how I got locked in on the Freddy movies.
See, there it is again. V.
What's that? What about that?
That's another spinoff of this freaking movie.
Yeah, the invasion where you don't see it and it looks like everybody's a part of that, and then when there's the one resistance group, that's finally when they tear his face open on live TV, and you find out they're lizard people.
Yeah,
and then there's the whole lizard people thing too.
Yeah. This movie had a lot of this is something tripped out about. This movie really screwed up a lot of people's heads back in the 70s. It really did.
Or did it open their eyes?
Man, please. I wouldn't be surprised right now. Don't even get me started. If there's like pod people out there that's taking over the government and everything else like that, would explain a whole lot of shit.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm turning you waiting for Deb. Are you sure you're not TikToking over there, Deb?
I'm sure. It's because I'm looking at your screen, so it looks like I'm, instead of looking straight to my camera. But I'm also freezing.
Oh man. But yeah, Invasion of the Body Snatchers. We may have not followed a format with our conversation today, but there's so much in this movie that, I mean, from Jeff Goldblum, Donald Sutherland. Were there any other names besides the Robert Duvall?
Leonard Nimoy.
Yes, Leonard Nimoy, my bad. Rest in peace, Mr. Spock.
Leonard Nimoy's dead.
Nancy was...
Oh, yeah.
What?
He died a couple of years ago.
Get the hell out of here.
For real. Don't tell me we went on Mandela effect. Leonard Nimoy is gone, my friend.
Mandela effect.
Yes.
Mandela effect.
he is gone. They did a tribute to him at the end of the second Star Wars, the end of Star Wars. Oh my God! You know how they redid Star Trek, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, they did a tribute to him after the second movie because he made that appearance, and then right after that appearance, he died.
Get the hell out of here! I didn't know he was dead.
Spock is dead.
And Shatner's still alive?
Yep.
Okay, we good.
What were you gonna say, Deb?
One of the trivias that I saw. Sorry.
Don't get all choked up.
You know when Donald Sutherland and Elizabeth, when they're in the taxi, and he tells her.
Was JD driving?
No. They're going into. So when they were in the taxi, you know how they looked nervous?
Yeah.
They were actually nervous because the driver was actually the director, and he was having problems with his eyesight. So he couldn't see where he was driving, and then it was nighttime.
Why would you do that?
So when they looked nervous, they were really nervous.
Okay, wait a minute. You trying to tell me that the director of the movie couldn't find anybody else to play this part with
so
better vision than him?
He drove the car in the nighttime without being able to see.
Now that shit is scary for real.
Well, the scene that I shot the other night, director showed up, big case of all his gear and all that, set up the lights himself, was holding the camera and all that. So I guess, but I mean what I meant is a low budget film, but this was a high dollar one back then. So I mean, they should have had some other driver. Maybe the director behind the camera would have been something, but not behind the wheel.
You could have did a lot of things. You could have got like one of the kids to drive you. You could have got a real cab driver.
Yeah.
That's dangerous enough as it is. They could have got a stunt double or something. I mean, shit.
He was saving money. It's all about money.
Yeah. Yeah, so they were really nervous.
All right, so let's get ready to shut this down a little bit. Deb, you have anything you want to add about the movie?
No, just that they're selfish. And I'm sticking to that.
Are you still reading your phone?
Yeah, well, I wanted to read so I can see. Yeah. Okay.
For anybody that wants to know, we were a little late recording this today because I had to get the USB extension cord for Deb. And she didn't even look at the camera once today. Now you're looking at the camera.
I was looking at the camera. I was looking at the camera a lot of times.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, she was. She looked up every quite often. She you know, Deb's on it. She's always getting the facts for us. She's on it.
See, Josh.
Man, Cobweb, you have anything you want to throw in there?
Only thing I can say is they walk among us.
Yes, and that right there on the bottom of the screen, that dog banjo playing homeless person.
That right there was fucked up.
I would have if I was her. What's her name? Elizabeth. And when they were waiting in line, and she started screaming. I would have been screaming too. That thing is scary. And he comes running up to her.
And nobody else. They're just like, oh yeah, that's just Mike. Hey Mike, how you doing?
Yeah, they're not. It's fine to them. It's fine. They're cool with that. Of course, there's going to be a couple little mix-ups. We're pod people. We can't get everything right.
But all right. So until next time. Oh, we didn't throw that. We had to end with the social medias. So you're Cobweb 411, right?
Yes.
Okay. So I got that memorized. Deb, you're Deb Mrs. OMG, and I'm Old Married Gamer, and that's on all our medias and all that. And all of us here together, we combine like Voltron. Or like Slaughterhouse. You ever hear that Voltron Voltron verse that they did on Slaughterhouse? Joe Budden, Crooked Eye, and
I probably heard it, but it's been a while since I listened to Slaughterhouse.
So we all form up together to be Cast of the Pod. And you can find all our social medias at Cast of the Pod, CAST of the POD. This has been our discussion, our review. Not a review, but our talk about and then maybe the multiverse versions of Invasion of the Body Snatchers from 1978. So until next time, y'all. Peace.
Peace.